Okay, welcome back to Fox Speed Shop, and me and my little buddy Luna here. We're going to be taking you through the paperwork that you're going to need to complete if you are planning on bringing a classic car in from the continent. It's changed slightly since Brexit, and there's certain things you need to complete for HM Revenue and Customs. So it's a notification of vehicle arrival, paperwork or online form, and I'll show you how you need to go about doing that. And then we'll also talk to you and talk you through how to complete the V55C form, which is a DVLA form for registering cars. And there's lots of things which, if you're importing a tax exempt classic and registering it for the first time, which you do not need to complete. So I'll show you how you go about doing that, and then we will take you through what additional paperwork you need to provide to them to ensure that you get your registration, and if they ask you for an inspection, what goes on in an inspection. Clearly Luna is maybe not going to be taking such a active role for the rest of the evening, as she seems to be wanting to go to sleep.
If you're making a complete personal import, you're going to have to be aware that some of the commodity codes which are required by Revenue and Customs changed since Brexit. You would have to look up what those actually are, but there is slight alteration. If you're getting it shipped over by continent, make sure that they are aware of what the new commodity codes are. Otherwise, you could end up with it being held in the docks and not being released by customs. This next stage, which is the notification of vehicle arrival, can be done by you yourself or by your shipping company. Let's assume that you are doing this yourself. You can find this portal on the .gov website, and you can create or amend vehicle notifications. So what you're going to do is you're going to go create or amend. This is relatively straightforward. It explains what you actually need to do and whether you are going to amend a notification that you've already made or you're going to make a new one. What you do is you are going to just click next on there. And you will have to enter some data about your vehicle. I won't go through absolutely everything that you need to do in terms of this, but you will require certain information, a lot of which will come from your shipping company. So you are going to need to have invoices with the full price of the car, including shipping, some form of notarized invoice. You're going to need to have the date that it was deregistered in the previous country, the date that it arrived over in the UK. They're all relatively simple, straightforward questions that you should have the answer to if you've had it shipped over by somebody else, and that's used in order to, or that value is used in order to calculate what duty you actually owe. Now, again, at the time of recording, you have 14 days in order to complete this. However, at the moment, again, stress at the time of recording, they are not enforcing that 14-day rule and they will not penalise you. However, normally, under normal circumstances, i.e. not post-Brexit in the middle of a pandemic, you have 14 days to complete this, otherwise you can be penalised. Once you've gone through the process of completing this form, it will be submitted to the HMRC, and usually within anywhere between a few minutes and an hour, you will find that they will email you with a response telling you how much tax or VAT or import duty you owe on the vehicle that you have imported.
You've gone through that process and you've completed the Nova form online. What you'll be given by HM Revenue and Customs is effectively a certificate which clarifies that you have paid all of the tax that is due. Now, whether or not there's any tax due obviously depends very much on the value of the vehicle that you're importing, and to a certain extent the time period in which you are importing it. At the moment, I assume due to Brexit backlog, they seem to have raised quite dramatically the value of a vehicle that is exempt from excise duty. At the moment it's sitting at £100,000, and it would appear that anything less than that is charged at 0% and you'll have nothing to pay. However, be aware that is at the time of recording, and you do want to check with the DVLA, or rather with the HMRC, what the value of that is going to be. But when you complete the Nova form, you will be told how much you are due, and once it is paid, you will be issued a certificate, and the certificate that you're issued will look something like this. Let's just flip the, and if I just cover up my address there, you can see there is a Nova reference, a submission reference, and the vehicle identification number of the car that you were talking about, and it states that there is nothing to pay, and therefore you are able to use that to complete your registration. Now it does say leave it a day, 24 hours or so before you submit it to the DVLA. In my case, it tends to take me considerably longer to get round to completing the registration form, so it's already had a chance to be logged in the database. But you will be asked to send that certificate off alongside the V55C form that you're going to use for the registration, so do make sure that you don't lose it. On reviewing the last couple of segments, I've noticed I've mislabelled the application for first registration document as a V55C. It's not a V55C, it's a V55-5 form, which you can download from the .gov website. And as stated at the top here, it's application for a first vehicle tax and registration of a used motor vehicle. So it's anything that is used and being registered in the UK for the first time. Now there are 2 pages to this. I've strategically redacted certain information by laying a piece of paper over it, but if you're importing a vehicle which is tax exempt and over the age of about 25 years, whether that's coming from the EU or whether that is coming from the US, there's a lot of this that you do not have to fill in. Now, first of all, I'd just like to take a bit of time to thank the guys at the VHRA, Vintage Hot Rod Association in the UK, who have a page on their website which is infinitely helpful for filling this form in. I always use that when I'm completing one of these, just to remind me which sections need to be completed for an old vehicle and which sections do not. But I'll take you through it in terms of a video. Most of this information in here is relevant only to one car, which is the one that I'm currently going through the registration process of. You can ignore registration number 1 because you do not have one yet. Tax class is going to be historic if it falls in the historic tax-free vehicle class, which at the moment in the UK is a rolling 40-year date. Period of tax, I'm going for 12 months. It's free anyway, so go for the 12 months. And again, at time of filming, point 4 there is £55, but do check that fee. The make, model, type, you fill in yourself. Okay, so these are relevant to the car that I'm booking a registration for. The wheel plan in this particular case, and for most cars, is a 2-axle rigid construction. But again, do check with the vehicle that you are bringing in that is the case for it. Put the colour on there. Again, the colour it's registered as doesn't really matter, but occasionally they will, not likely in this particular COVID situation that we're in, but often they will send a guy around to inspect from another company called SGS, and they will verify that the colour that you've stuck on the registration document is actually the colour of the car. They take a few photos, although sometimes the colour that you put down there and the colour that comes back on the registration document according to the photos can be very, very different things. You can ignore any of the type, variant, version, length, gross weight. Most of that is not applicable. However, point 18 you will have to complete. Point 18 is the number of seats, including the driver. So whether that be a 2 for a 2-seat sports car, whether that's 4, whether that's a 5-seat. The rest of the form down there, again, you can leave blank, okay, because that's sort of for vehicles whose gross vehicle weight actually matters as part of a registration tag. Back up at the top of the form, country the vehicle was purchased from. So again, depending on where you've imported it from, you will have to fill that in with the country of origin. The date at which the tax is due to start, so you'll fill that in with the date you want the registration to start. Again, I've just redacted the VIN number, so you need to put in the VIN number. If you have an engine number, also complete the engine number. Now, these two must match the numbers on the chassis plate or the chassis data plate, or what that are stamped into the frame, because again, they will often send guys around to inspect to make sure that that is correct. You've got to make sure that that matches any other documentation that you send in. Cylinder capacity in cc, they want the exact one, don't round it up. So in this particular case, it's a Fiat, it's 499cc, put 499cc down instead of 500cc, don't round it up. Again, here, date of original registration, year of manufacture, and the date that you want it registered in the UK. These are important. This year of manufacture, this date of original registration, this is why, as I'll show you in a minute, you also have to supply to the DVLA as part of the registration the original registration document. So this over here is the original registration document for this car. This is an Italian one, so this is the Targa registration document, but they will accept any form of title of ownership. So in the US states, most of them will issue titles. If for whatever reason, flip that around here, for whatever reason you don't have the original registration document, or you don't have a title of ownership from the states, in order to prove that 46 and 27 on the V55-5 form are accurate, they will ask you to provide proof of date of manufacture. And that can come from a variety of different sources. You can get, as I say, the original registration document and title, or you can get a letter from an approved vehicle club. You can look those up on the DVLA, but most of the approved vehicle clubs, say VHRO, Vintage Hot Rod Association, Ford Model A Owners Club, Fiat 500 Owners Club, or a letter, a dating letter, date of birth, certificate from the manufacturer themselves. So Volkswagen will, for a fee, for example, issue you with a certificate which states from the chassis number the date at which your Beetle or Type 3 or whatever you might be registering was manufactured. Fiat will likewise do the same. If you're coming from Europe bringing something slightly left field, Zastava, for example, from over in Serbia, a lot of those records no longer exist, in which case you will have to go down the route of one of the owners' clubs. So that's the first of this. It's a 2-page document. Just looking at the second page, you have to complete your full address in there. Again, I will redact my full address in there. So you have to complete the point 62 on the form. Point 64, complete, which is that it is exempt due to age. So if you're bringing in something over 40 years, which again is verified by those documents I've just mentioned, it will be tax exempt. And then you sign and date the form at the bottom, okay? And that is completing the V55-5. It's not particularly hard. It looks like a really daunting form, but as I say, there's only a few sections of that which you actually need to fill in. You will need to send off to the DVLA alongside that thing like Targa document or a title document. You will also need to send a copy of the Nova certificate, which I just showed you. It wouldn't hurt to send off copies of, it wouldn't hurt to send off photographs of things like the VIN plate photos of the cars, because as I mentioned earlier, often they will send a company, they outsource to a company called SGS, send them around to have a look at the car. Due to COVID, they're not doing that at the moment, so the more photos you send of things like the VIN plate to verify it, things like photos of the car to prove that it is actually a car and you're not trying to register a little bit of rust with a VIN tag on it so that you can ring a car. It does happen. send as many of those off as possible. You will also have to send off proof of identification, so photocopies of driving licence, utility bills, that sort of thing. At the moment, they do not send any of the title documents back, although I believe you can request to have them sent back if you include a stamped addressed envelope. But most of the time, keep a copy of your title, a photograph, or a photocopy of your original registration document, because they will take that. And hopefully within a month or so, you will get your registration, your V5, through the post, and you'll be issued with a year appropriate registration. Well, thanks for tuning in and watching this slightly different from normal episode. We will be back and have normal service resumed in the garage soon enough, but I thought this might be useful information for anyone that's hoping to do the same as what we've just done with the little red Fiat 500. If you like what we're doing, if you like the channel content, please check out some of the other playlists from the links should be below there. You can subscribe from a link somewhere on the screen here, and leave me any comments that you like, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.